And yes, welcome to Mindful Live number 58. Thank you for being here. It is Thursday, the 24th of March. Welcome. It's nice having you here. I'm Nathan Springer, your host, of course. Who else would it be? And what we're getting into today, that I did the contemplation about this. I went into this in the contemplation, getting down to business now. Yes, Vanessa Scott. I did the contemplation about this, where I found that an answer that the finance minister gave to a question one of the senators brought up, I found the answer just to be too audacious. So a senator brought up some questions about the nature of our forex and who gets access to it. And here's the thing, that's a question on many people's minds. This is a question many people have. As I was saying previously in the TikTok live before we started here, it's probably one of my most requested videos. It's probably one of my most requested videos. Everyone asks, what exactly is going on with the Forex? What's going on with the US dollars? What's the story behind it? And to be very honest, as I said, I don't really know. And when you look into it, it seems a little complicated. And as Nathan's razor goes, it's Nathan's razor as in something that I have as a default when I see something. When something seems a little too confusing to me, I start to feel like somebody is trying to run a racket inside of there, because many things aren't naturally that confusing. So Forex is one that seems a bit confusing to me. But let's see what the senator asked and let's see what the reply was. Senator Deonarine calls for Forex ombudsman. Independent Senator Amrita Deonarine called for the creation of a post of an ombudsman, specifically to monitor the allocation of foreign exchange. Speaking in the Senate on Tuesday, moving a motion complaining that micro, small and medium enterprises have difficulty accessing Forex, she urged the government table in Parliament within 6 months a policy on how the government would navigate tightness in the Forex market. Saying it was now no secret that it was hard to get Forex from private banks, she said this was causing much frustration among young entrepreneurs who had otherwise been eager to take up various tax incentives offered by the government. She said at present, applicants must approach banks to seek to get US $300 per week and try to accumulate a required sum, but are sometimes required by banks to take a loan and open a line of credit. Now, I don't think I have to tell the people in this live this, because that's a complaint I've seen regularly in the comment sections in many of the lives, in many of the contemplations. The US dollars just aren't there to be accessed for some strange reason. Now, granted, we do have a shortage of US dollars. But the problem isn't just the shortage of US dollars. The problem is the distribution. And is there an even distribution of these US dollars? Because we know now, as the senator is saying, and as many people experience, you could only access $300 US per week. And if you're shopping only, that's fine, and I guess that's the intention of that. But if you're trying to use that kind of money to run any kind of business, anytime the business starts growing any kind of speed, you're going to be in trouble. And you could wonder about how purposeful some of this is. It's nearly like you get that amount to trap you into the consumer realm and never allow you to enter into the realm of being a producer. Well, not necessarily a producer, but a participant inside of this market. No, you must not be able to participate. You must not be able to sell and gain inside of this. No, all you do is input your capital into here. You come and buy things from us. All right, they give you just enough to do that. Deonarine said the government must set clear guidelines for the central bank to allocate Forex to businesses and to students studying abroad. She said the lack of Forex policy would hurt TT's efforts at diversification and in growing the non-oil sector. Okay, so the minister answered her. And to be clear, his answer was lengthy. we aren't going to go through his entire answer. He answered a lengthy answer. It's on purpose to give the powers that be a head start. Then when your stuff reach, it's take forever. He gave, and in the beginning of his answer, he prefaced his answer by giving some knowledge. So if you would like to know, you can feel free to go over to the Parliament's YouTube channel, and you can find that sitting, and you can take in all that he said. He explains basically how we get forex obviously how nearly anywhere else gets forex. You have to export things, and our main export has been natural gas and oil, and those exports have dropped in the recent years. So as those exports dropped, we have had less forex coming in. That's what he said. He also pointed out that he made it clear that this forex belongs to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and what they do with it is they give it to the central bank. The central bank runs independently. Now, bear in mind, the central bank runs independently, just as the Police Service Commission runs independently, just as the president runs independently. You all understand. Just as the Commissioner of Police runs independently, you're getting the picture I'm painting here. So the central bank would distribute this to the commercial banks, but the central bank doesn't dictate to the commercial banks how they allocate their forex. That's up to the commercial banks. And the minister said something very capitalistic and free market-like inside of his statement, where he said that they are not interested in getting into the forex control, the forex market control as a government. And I agree with that. I do not think that the government should be in there trying to dictate who gets what, because I do not think that they would make it any better. I do not think so. That was the initial bit of the point that he raised. They don't have much control over that. That is on the commercial banks themselves. Just like a remote control car runs independently. Ha, 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 ha. But he also outlined several things that the government has done to try and help with the forex situation. For example, they run some forex from their reserves directly into state enterprises like Tech, like WASA, etc., so that they would be able to get their US dollars without pressuring the commercial bank's stock of forex. So they would be able to get it direct from the government. And in that, he made sure to pelt in some jabs there at the former government in highlighting that one of the reasons WASA needs so much US dollars is that they are trapped in a cruel long-term deal with desalination, which is probably one of the most expensive ways to get potable water, and they have to pay that desalination plant in US dollars. And similarly, Tech has to pay TGU, I believe, in US dollars too. The minister made sure to highlight those points, and that it was not this current government that got them into those deals, but they are trying to work with it. So he highlighted those points. I'm trying to be fair to the guy. I'm trying to be fair to him. Oh, my Tanti Cam's fault again. Well, you see, in reality, it is her fault. But then it's the present government's fault too, and then it was the Patrick Manning government fault too. All of them have their part to play in it. Now, whose fault it was is kind of inconsequential to the present tense. It's not like we could go back in 2010 and reverse anything that the People Partnership did. So the fault is inconsequential in the present future tense in that sense. But yeah, it is her fault. I agree. There was rampant corruption inside of the partnership. That's partly her fault. But as I said, they all have their part to play. Anyway, so after he went through highlighting some of those things that they did, he went in now more directly on the senator's point, because the senator, as you could have seen here in this article, or if you listen to her speech or her question, the senator highlighted the small and micro enterprises and their difficulty in accessing US dollars, because it's very important. If you want to import something and sell it down here, you need the US dollars, and that was the intention. Now, let's hear what our finance minister had to say about that.
What we've done as well, we have another innovation where we have decided that we need to promote exports, and this is why I was a little troubled by the senator's contribution, because that seemed to focus on imports, not on exports. And what we've done with the Exim Bank is that we have created a window to allocate foreign exchange to exporters. The allocation...
Side note, that vibration of the phone and thing you're hearing there is not me. That's, I suppose, the goodly minister. Like, I mean, you could put the phone on actual silent, you know. Vibrate is a setting. Anyway.
Initial allocation in the Exim Bank was US $100 million, and it was designed to fund the operations and import requirements of local manufacturers and exporters, because to develop and grow as a country, to become competitive, we must export. We can't be focused on imports. And I would hate to think that young entrepreneurs are focusing on importing fully manufactured goods. I don't want to call them expensive, you know, toys. But I would hate to think that that is the focus of young entrepreneurs, that that's the kind of business they want to start, that they will just simply go on the internet, buy something online, import it into Trinidad and Tobago, add a markup and sell it. I would hate to think that that is the focus of our young entrepreneurs. I would think instead they would want to use domestic resources, domestic supplies, domestic inputs and so on, and also, if they can, as they get larger and they grow, that they will go into the export business. I know many people who have reacted, many businesses who have reacted to the foreign exchange shortage, and there is a shortage, no one can deny that. Because the demand outstrips the supply, there's no two ways about it, and that's because of the significant reduction in forex that has come into this country from the energy sector over the last 6 or 7 years. But I would hope that young entrepreneurs would take pattern from some of our more established medium-sized businesses who are now focusing on exports, are now creating their own foreign exchange, so that they're getting out of this difficulty where they have to go to the commercial banking sector to get their forex. In fact,
Now, here's the thing. I don't disagree with him, you know. I don't really disagree with him. He is right for the most part. More importantly, we need to create things here locally. We need to produce to be able to provide something, and by providing that something, that's how we would gain more resources. That's factually accurate. But my problem with this is that that's not the point we are making here. That's not actually the point that is being made here. That's irrelevant to the point that is being made here. Because the question isn't whether you're allocating the forex to a producer or to only an import and add on a markup and seller. No, it's all doing the same things. How many luxury brands we have here in Trinidad and Tobago? I am sure when those car dealerships import their brand new Porsches and Range Rovers and etc. and Jeeps and etc. and etc. and etc. I am sure they don't pay in TT dollars. And I am sure that all those luxury vehicles, those expensive toys, as he did not want to put it but still put it, those expensive toys are bought fully made in a foreign country, brought across here, a markup is added, and they make a profit from it. Now, I am not resentful against anyone for making their profit in that way. I don't resent you for doing that. But the problem is when it seems like the politicians, who many of them may have many businesses that function in that very same way as financiers, it seems nearly like they're trying to pull up the ladder from other people doing the very same thing. So why should the focus be on the smaller businesses to do that? Then why isn't the focus on these larger businesses who actually use the larger amounts of forex? Those larger businesses, why isn't the focus more on them to avoid them doing that? These small businesses that want to bring in some lingerie from the US and sell it on Instagram, they're barely crossing, even if they're doing real good business, barely crossing 10,000 US a month. That's real good business. While these car companies, I'm sure, are pelting out some 100 millions of US per year. It's ridiculous. And then that's the comparison you have to do now. If you're talking about the entire thing, the entirety of it, all heading in a more local direction, all heading in a direction to produce more locally, I have no problem with that. You could sell me on that. I will push that idea for you. I agree. Try to produce locally. And I think even on the more selfish side, it may be better even for you as an individual. The profit, the benefit may actually be better for you in the long run. Try to think it through and find something nearer to produce with. I agree with that. But that is irrelevant to what we are saying now. And then the next point in this is, in the present world that we live in, to be the top in your industry, almost surely some kind of resources would have to be tapped from the global market. That's just the nature of it. What I am doing now, we're talking about Trinidad and Tobago business here, but nearly no device that I am using right now to communicate with you is made locally or was purchased locally. So, wow, Instagram got heated and fell over. Ha! Welcome back, Instagram. Let's hope it doesn't do that again. Yeah, how are we to access the funding to do the production he's speaking about? Yeah. So that's exactly it. Even to start some of these processes require that outside purchase. It requires that outside purchase, and you are stymieing people. And this to me speaks to the point that I so regularly make when I speak about the political parties in Trinidad and Tobago and how I see them. If you are OG inside of the Mindful Live, you would be very familiar with me saying this over and over and over again. I see one party fights on a racial line. Again, when I say racial, I'm not saying necessarily racist. Racial as in based on races more, while one seems to do more of a class line, and the one that seems to go more down the class line seems like once you are part of that old money crew, you are in much better hands with them. It could give that feeling. I could be wholly incorrect, of course, that's a possibility, but it does give that feeling. And when you see statements like this coming from our dearly loved finance minister, that's the feeling you get. And it nearly always seems that kind of elitist feeling. It seems nearly like when he speaks differently, and he would speak differently if he's talking to his peers and if he's talking to Trinidad and Tobago. So Trinidad and Tobago needs to try to produce locally, boost that local economy. I would hate for our young upcoming entrepreneurs to try to make money the quick way, the way my friends and financiers do. I would hate for that to happen. You need to struggle and innovate. And then my financiers that make their money the easy way by just importing and adding a markup, when you innovate, because they would have the capital on top of you, they would come and hops up your innovation and do the very same thing with it. Take your innovation and hit it a markup. Yeah. That screams elitism to me. It screams elitism. It screams. Good night, Ria. And I almost always, when I mention the finance minister, I almost always like to point back to that faithful budget, where I can't remember exactly how many weeks. I cannot remember exactly how many weeks, and I don't want to be wrong, but it was a couple weeks before the budget. The minister purchased on his tax exemptions. He got himself well, I don't know if it was for himself, but his tax exemptions got a Mustang. Well done, Minister. Nice vehicle. I like the look of a Mustang myself. If I could have owned one right now, I might have. Yes, nice vehicle. I don't envy him and his Mustang. You do your thing, sir. Shorter than average elderly man in a Mustang could paint a kind of picture, but you do your thing. I rate it. You do your thing. But then, for a couple weeks later, for this same minister to come in the budget and say that he's going to raise the taxes on large engine vehicles because Trinidad, we really don't need these large engine vehicles on our roads. Like, what are you talking about, sir? Didn't we just watch you purchase a large engine vehicle? And in there is where the elitism is. Because the elites are not the regular riffraff. They aren't the plebs. They aren't the regular citizens down there. They are the elites. There are different rules for them. You see, he needs that big engine to reach to places up and down really quickly. He's the Minister of Finance. He has serious business to take care of. But you need to drive your Leaf and your Aqua. Yeah. Good night, Richard Glubman. Out of touch with everything and everyone, says Vanity Dollhouse Titi. And here's the thing. I think what's happening to many politicians, especially many older politicians, is the technology and the changes in the world are moving faster than they are realizing. So there may have once been a time where a politician could have easily done that. You bought your Mustang and on the next day you could come out and say what you want and nobody knows the difference, because it's if the two newspapers figure it out, and if they figure it out, you could make a call to the editor and lean on the editor and say, well, you can't publish that. But it's a different time now. There are people on the internet. All these articles are now there to be seen. It's harder to get away with those things. And I think we'd see much more and more of these blatant levels of hypocrisy. But the thing is, would it affect the support? That's the main problem there. Would it ever have any effect on the support? Imagine you can't buy cryptocurrency directly from Trinidad. I am not surprised by that at all. Many governments are very afraid of the cryptocurrency. El Salvador, I believe, allowed cryptocurrency as viable currency in their country. And do you know that the US Senate is now launching an investigation on El Salvador over that Bitcoin business? How dare you? How dare you try to get financially independent from the US? And it's kind of funny. I'm glad I'm veering into this, because on that note, there were some interesting developments with that money business across the world. I saw Russia with all these sanctions going on. Government officials should only be allowed to purchase energy efficient vehicles, since that's what they're pushing. I agree with that, Rhea. They must get exactly what they tell us we must get. Yeah, since the sanctions going on with Russia has told unfriendly countries that now they must buy oil and gas in rubles, in Russian currency. That is interesting. You see, the United States has the power that it has for a large part because of the petrodollar. They convinced most of the petrol-producing countries to only accept US dollars to purchase oil and gas resources. So any country that needs to purchase oil and gas, which is every country, needs to get US dollars to do that. And because you need to get US dollars, and the United States is the place that produces US dollars, the US dollar itself nearly becomes a sort of resource. It's the main resource, as it were, that the United States produces. US dollars and culture. Culture. So that power of the US dollar is hinged on natural gas. Now, there's a conspiratorial side that says every country that has attempted to unpin their oil and gas resources from the US dollar have experienced sudden democracy. every country that has discussed, like Muammar Gaddafi had intention of removing his country from this US dollar system, and all of a sudden Gaddafi's country out there in Libya had to get a sudden influx of emergency democracy. It was how many countries? I had the list in my head and it just disappears. Libya, I believe Syria was one also. We won't mention that country with L. Yeah, it's a well-known thing. So the question now, I've seen the question now is the US going to allow Russia to do this? Because I believe India has already purchased some Russian energy resources in rubles. They took Russia off of the SWIFT payment system, which is an online payment system, but it's hinged on the US dollar. But as they took them off, China jumped them in to the new Chinese payment system. I can't remember the name. And now, is that actually now going to have a change of actual power structures in the world? Does the US dollar have enough strength to go up against the actual natural resources and production of Russia, China, and some parts of the southern hemisphere? If you listen enough of the Western media, they would have you believe that it's a given and it's obvious that the US, yes, Saddam was one too, that the US dollar has, it's, of course the US dollar is going, okay, if they say so. But I think the question still arises, and it's an interesting question. Brush up on your Mandarin. USA won't allow it. They have been doing it for decades. But what are they going to do now that it is going on with Russia? How are they going to counter this? That is going to be very interesting, I think. That is going to be very interesting. Oh, Nathan, good night. Good night, Neil Wong. Hi, Master Mix Promos. Did you read the letter that China and Russia penned 20 days before the invasion? It spoke to this. Yes, it did. They basically penned a letter that said, hey, USA, you all ain't on the top anymore. Bam. Yeah, I did read up about that. It's the reality we're facing now, and I think the US has gotten themselves into that situation because they have abused the position that they have put themselves in, and it has become unsustainable because the US has become a country that doesn't really produce anything. It produces frivolity, decadence, opulence, perversion, but it barely produces, well, not barely, that's not true, but it does not produce the amount of resources that should be reciprocal for the amount of wealth that they have. And the reason for that is because the other poorer countries do it. This is the thing that I always try to tell people. When you're looking at US news, when you're looking at American news, here's your wish for American news if you're trying to be sensible as a non-American. I want the US government to spend as little money as possible. Give no money to any US citizen. Please, no, don't give any. Spend none in your budget. Because you see, the more they spend, what they're actually spending is the resources that has to be bled from the poorer countries. How that works, and I made a contemplation about this before. If you've heard it before, so be it. How that works is you in your country, you need well, actually, you don't need US dollars. You need oil and gas. The way how the world is structured right now, if you want transportation in your country, if you want electricity, etc., 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 if you want any of these modern amenities, you need that oil and gas resource. To get that oil and gas resource, you need US dollars. Now, what that has caused is not only to get the oil and gas you need US dollars, but because you need US dollars to get the oil and gas, many people who do any kind of exporting, they want US dollars too. So anytime you want to import anything from anybody, you could be buying something sometimes from Europe and they're telling you to pay in US dollars. So everywhere wants US dollars. So here's the problem you have. you have resources. So let's say you're a farming country. You have real bananas. You have them. You could exchange bananas for oil. But bananas for oil is not a viable exchange. Nobody wants bananas for oil. They only want US dollars for oil. Not only oil, they only want US dollars for anything you want to import into your country. So now your problem is you have valuable resources, but you need US dollars. So you have to take your valuable resources and convert them to US dollars. In order to do that, you have to produce enough of these valuable resources and sell it to someone that can pay you in US dollars. Most often the United States. And that kind of deal is nearly always in their benefit because they have the US dollars. They could print it as they see fit. They don't have to exchange a value to you for your resource. They exchange US dollars to you. And by doing that, they basically accumulate the value of your labor in their country. That's why so many people in the United States could get wealthy doing nearly nothing, because it's much easier. They're accumulating the wealth of the entire world over there. So your view for them, America, spend as little money as possible. Because by being hinged to that, that's what is happening. Now, here's the thing. Reality is difficult. In order for trading to make sense, you kind of want a common trading unit. You do not want to be trading in a million different dollars. That's just not going to make sense. It's going to get really complicated. Now, technology kind of made a lot of those things obsolete because you don't need any dollars. Technology could make it all happen online, which actually opens a whole other Pandora's box. That's why I say reality is complicated with that. That opens a whole other Pandora's box where, are you sure you want the value of your labor to be stored online where people could tamper with it and always track it also? So that's another side. But yeah, the reality is you kind of want a common trading thing. So it's not like everyone could just unhook from the US dollar and forget about this and trade in their own money. But if there is a large enough alternative, like Russia, China, plus a couple other countries, that is tempting enough for some people, where some people now could look and wonder, is my deal attached to the US dollar as good as the deal I'm going to get attached to the whatever this second system is? It's an interesting question, I think. It's an interesting question. Here's another interesting question. I'm just speaking of some of the news that I took in today. I don't think I'm going back to any other articles. Just some news that I took in inside here today. I was again watching some of the insanity that the United States exports, and they're having a confirmation of one of their Supreme Court justices, and that's an issue. That is an issue. If that happened, there will be World War III. I think that's actually a high possibility. There's something called the Thucydides trap or something to that effect that speaks about when one rising power is attempting to cross across another, it nearly always ends in war. You could actually check it back through history, and it's what happens over and over and over and over and over again. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe with technology things can change, because we are seeing also that kinetic warfare, actual guns and looking for bloodshed, etc., sometimes might not be as effective as information warfare over the internet. If I could control what you think, I could get into a lot. A prime example for this. So what you're saying, if the US dollars fall to nothing, a world war could break out at any time? Basically, yes. Basically, yes. One of the prime reasons for war is financial instability. That's just one of the regular reasons how it goes. Yes, black and a woman, vanity dollhouse titty. But here's the strangest thing about that. This person who was selected because she is black and a woman was asked, what is a woman? And she couldn't answer. And that's the ridiculous state that we are reaching into modern times. And I think this kind of thing is actually pretty dangerous, where you could scare people into being so worried about the political ramifications of answering the simplest questions. Yeah, and those issues in that context are insane. Imagine this. Imagine this. You are selected to do a job because you are a woman. They ask you to define what a woman is, and you have no idea what a woman is. I cannot define that. That's preposterous. And here's why that is scary. That tells you that a person like that is willing to bend their reality based upon political convenience. That's the kind of thing that causes a system to collapse. I don't know how many of you read way back when, it might have been many years ago for some of us, a deeply philosophical book, where the emperor got a new suit of clothing. And someone made that suit of clothing for the emperor out of invisible thread. And everyone apparently found the new suit of invisible clothing to look marvelous. Except I think it was a little boy or something. Eventually he noted that the emperor was actually naked. What are you talking about? I am talking about the ability of humans to, because of political and sometimes power and money benefit, be willing to bend the very reality that they see, the very obvious reality that they see. And these kinds of things, there's a quote, I think I saw that on right-wing media, but there's a quote I believe attributed to Voltaire, the French poet, where if they could make you believe absurdities, they can make you commit atrocities. It's basically giving up your mind to be controlled by a political entity. That's what that is. That's what you have done. If you are giving up your very definitions of words, you see, we must understand what words are. Words are how we express our thoughts. Words are how we think. We think through words. So if people are able to change the definition of words inside your head, as it were, they are able to in a sense, change your thinking. You go on high there, boy. Real high man talk, lol. Ha. Nah, Nathan, that's not what she said. When asked, she said she's not a biologist to give a definition. Nope, that's not what she said, Ria. She said, I do not know. And then when pressed further, she said, I am not a biologist. I cannot give an answer. That is insane. You do not need to be a biologist to tell what a woman is, Ria. Ria, do you need to be a biologist to tell what a woman is? Really? Do we? What is the political entity? Who are you talking about? It is Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. What are you speaking about? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I am currently speaking about a bit of a news story I watched over in the United States. Yes, she said she didn't know. That is precisely what was said. It's ridiculous. And it's really and truly because of politics. I mean, the reason is kind of obvious. You could tell why, but it's still kind of ridiculous to watch it play out like that. Here's another story that I found interesting. What do y'all think about Jamaica's protest of the royal couple's visit? The prince and princess visited Jamaica, and well, some, not all obviously, some people were not having it. The idea that some people had was that the royal couple, if they were to visit Jamaica, they should be visiting with an apology for what they have done to Jamaica over the years. And they should also be visiting with a check. As they should. They paid reparations to white slave owner descendants up to 2015. They aren't a republic yet. no, not so. And the reparations. Yeah. Now, here's the thing, if anybody running reparations, run my reparations and let it go. But I don't understand logistically how reparations are going to work. I just don't. I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about Prime Minister Keith Rowley? Oh, what is my opinion of the goodly Dr. Keith Rowley? That's the question you are asking. Well, my opinion of the Dr. Keith Rowley. I think he is not an idiot. He's a smart man. That seems pretty obvious to me. He is not incompetent as the opposition likes to make him seem. I would actually put him as a pretty competent person. However, his personality, he is not as personable as you may want in a leader. And the nature of the partisan political machine, it's nearly irrelevant who he is in terms of his character if he exists within an entity, a political party that moves certain things all on their own. There are certain actions that this party would take all on their own without him having any effect on it. It's about time Jamaica becomes a republic. They can calculate my money. But yeah, I don't know how the calculation for reparations are going to work. Who gets what? Who gets what? So if someone is half white, why should I mention Kamala? You don't have to mention each one each time you talk about the other. As I was saying, if someone is half white, how do they get their reparations? And here's the other question. Who pays the reparations? How do you get the money to pay these reparations? Where does the money come from? Because if you're saying, okay, the United Kingdom, as in Britain, the country, must find the trillions of dollars wherever they have to find it and pay it, the reality is that would be taxpayers who have to pay that. And it's not like you're taking it from the direct slave owners. Where would the money come from? Sell the royal jewelry. Sell it to whom? Sell it to whom? Who is going to just buy the royal jewelry for buying its sake and buy trillions of dollars worth of it and then be able to fund the reparations from that? I have no problem with apologies, etc., etc. Even though apologies from the current prince I find kind of pointless because he was not there. He did no one anything. He didn't do you anything because you were not a slave. And he didn't even do your ancestors anything because he was not a slave master. To me, he has nothing to apologize. If some random royal comes up to me and tells me, I'm sorry about I might be more insulted than anything. I don't like that. But the reparations part, I just don't understand the feasibility of it. For example, here's a good one. The grandson of the queen right now is a person of color, supposedly, because the daughter-in-law who this prince married from the United States, she's supposedly a person of color now. I find a lot of the racial politics over in the United States to be plain downright insane and stupid, but okay, she's a person of color. So the grandson of the queen would now be entitled to some reparations, I suppose. And would your reparations then be a fraction of how African you really are? So like if you're 100% lineage directly from Africa, you get a certain amount of reparations. But if you're half, you get half that amount and they divide it by which fraction of an African you are? Like, how is that going to work? France should give Haiti money though. Now you see that one. That's a whole different thing. I kind of agree with that. My problem with that, the only problem I have with that is that the current state of Haiti after years and years and years of people going in there and doing what they wanted, Haiti is now so corrupt that if France just unloads trillions of dollars on them, very likely those trillions of dollars would pour out just as fast into the pockets of various people. People all about the world have fleeced Haiti, and I don't think they would stop. So if you just pour money into Haiti's pockets, I think you would be pouring money into someone else's pockets. But I do agree with that. France, and because that one is kind of easily quantifiable. It's like you took money from them, you can give it back. That one, and the country is still there. Both of the countries have still existed continually since then. That one is a lot more obvious to me. As Denise G. Davies says, it is a different time and a different place. It is wrong what has happened in the past, and therefore, I guess that didn't finish. All right, I don't know if you can hear it, but the rain is starting to come down here, and as it comes down heavier, the audio starts to go weird. It's just a bullying move by France not to pay them back. Not necessarily bullying, well, yeah, bullying, because they don't have to. No one can make them do it. No one is going to make them do it. Therefore, we will move on. The people back then has passed away, all of them, and we must turn over. I understand the sentiment, and I agree with it in a certain sense, but I think there are certain grievances that could be paid. It's like if your parents, let me change it. If my parents stole from your parents and I live in the house that they stole from your parents, you understand? To tell me that we should all go on and forget about it. I didn't steal it from you. It was my parents, and I think you could get back the house that kind of way, you know. I reached late, but like the live ending already, but the effect of the actions live on though. All I have is breeze and I'm begging for rain. All right. Over on YouTube and Instagram, this is where I say farewell. It was nice having you, nice having the little discussion, and I hope you were educated, informed, or entertained. And if you're looking for a small little discussion a little while longer, I'll be on TikTok for a brief bit longer and you could join me there if you like. If not, I will see you tomorrow